Thank God for Thomas. He was a little more practical and a little less fearful than the other disciples. In the days immediately following the crucifixion of Jesus, he was apparently the only one of them willing to go out and find food and the supplies that they needed. The other disciples, minus Judas now, mostly hid out, fearful that the Jewish authorities might discover where they were hiding. After Mary had her encounter with the risen Christ on Easter Sunday, all of them were shaken and unsure what to believe. They kept the doors locked, both physically and, metaphorically speaking, emotionally as well. It has even been suggested that they were actually almost as afraid of Jesus as they were of the Jewish authorities. After all, they had failed him in those dark hours. And who knew what might happen if his vengeful spirit now came back to haunt them? All of that changed on Monday evening, when Jesus suddenly appeared. No one had forgotten to lock the doors. It was just that locked doors didn't matter anymore for Jesus. He could be anywhere he wanted to be. "Peace be with you," Jesus said to them, greatly diminishing their fears and once again filling their hearts with joy. Jesus showed him his hands and side to reassure them that he was not a ghost or a specter or an illusion. He was real. And then, so the gospel says, Jesus delivered on a promise that he had made to them during the Last Supper. He breathed on them and said, "Receive the Holy Spirit." Clearly, the Holy Spirit originated in Jesus and empowered their faith, dispelling their doubt, enabling them to believe, which is the same role that the Holy Spirit plays now in the heart of every believer. And having done this, Jesus then said to them, "If you forgive anyone's sins, their sins are forgiven. If you do not forgive them, they are not forgiven." That has sometimes been interpreted as some sort of special authority given to the church to selectively grant salvation to some and to deny it for others. But I believe that it is better understood simply as a commission for them to go now and to share the gospel, because where they go, the Holy Spirit could go and will bring salvation. While I was in seminary, I spent some time talking to a 100-year-old pastor living in a nursing home then. He told me one day that he had finally come to understand the Parakletos, the word that was used by Jesus during the Last Supper, when he told his disciples that the advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you all things and will remind you of everything I have said to you. It is this advocate that convinces hearts and minds to believe the truth. In a dream, this pastor had seen one of those early disciples preaching, and he watched how the flame leaped from him to another person, and then to another, and then another. By receiving the Holy Spirit from Jesus and then going out into the world, the apostles would enable the Holy Spirit to be wherever they went, leaping from one soul to another as they share the gospel of Christ. This was the plan of God. Thomas wasn't there when Jesus came. When Thomas came back, it was clear to him that the other disciples had gone mad. They were now convinced that Jesus had somehow risen from the dead. Thomas, however, was not convinced. Their testimony was not yet enough for him. "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my finger where the nails were and put my hand into his side, I will not believe." Thank God for Thomas. He was never one to get swept in what appeared to him at least to be some sort of mass hysteria. It's not that he didn't want to believe. It was just that things had to be proven to him before they were really true. I like Thomas. He is my kind of guy. I have shared before with at least some of you how historians work with their sources to figure out what is true. It is not unlike being a detective. The opinion of the majority of sources does not always rule. Origin and textual analysis matters. How the truth was passed from one person to another matters. And discovering the actual truth matters. And in the end, if the sources do not all agree, an historian must take the source which seems to accord best with common sense. Common sense told Thomas there was room for doubt concerning what the others said they saw and experienced. And that way, Thomas's experience may be a lot more like our own. After all, none of us was there either. One can imagine that the next week got a little intense for Thomas. Not just because the other disciples had experienced something that Thomas did not, but because the rumor concerning Jesus was probably spreading fast. In his trips out, Thomas probably encountered people who recognized him as one of the disciples and asked him, "Is it true? Is Jesus alive?" To which Thomas could only say, "I have not seen him. The others say that they have." A week later, however, Jesus appeared to them all once again. This time Thomas was there, and Jesus spoke to him specifically, saying, "Put your finger here, see my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe." Now Thomas had all the proof he needed and more. He also realized something about the risen Christ, which was only just then becoming clear to all of them. Jesus was, and had always been, more than he appeared to be. Although Thomas had not seen him earlier, Jesus had obviously been present before when he told the others that unless I put my finger where the nails were and put my hand into his side, I will not believe. That sort of omnipresence was something which up to now had only ever been an attribute of God. And that is why Thomas exclaimed, "My Lord and my God." Then Jesus told him, "Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." With those words, Thomas was also commissioned as an apostle to go and to share the good news of Christ with those who have not seen but would come to believe. Many different legends exist concerning the work of Thomas. In one of them, he is said to have first gone to the Essenes and convinced many of them to go with him to India in 52 AD. They settled in an area in southern India called Kerala and built their new home there. In the late 20th century, excavations there uncovered coins similar to those found within the caves of Qumran. And it is said that a Hindu Brahmin family near the town of Palur, Kerala, has a document of family history wherein it is written, in the Kali year 3153, or 52 AD, the foreigner Thomas Sannyasi came to our village and preached there. Sannyasi is a word applied to Hindu monks, or perhaps more generally to a spiritual leader. That record from a non-Christian source is probably as close as we can get to proof of his presence there. Centuries later, when some Christians from Persia visited that area of India, they discovered a group who told them, "We are the disciples of St. Thomas." Even today, many in southern India trace their faith and practice to the Apostle Thomas. Although there is a sort of appendix added on to the book of John, when his gospel was first written, it probably ended with these words, "Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book, but these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. While we might sometimes wish that we could have lived long ago and heard the voice of Jesus, or even been there to see the miracles and the risen Christ, we are still among the blessed, for we have not seen, and yet we have believed. And we also have now a collection of books called the Bible, written just so that we might believe. Thanks be to God then for Thomas, whose doubt gives us all the more reason to believe. And thanks be to all of those who carried the gospel around the world and down through the centuries, so that the Holy Spirit might also come one day to live in each of us. Be safe, and God bless you.